more developments on the rare breed case. I'm definitely going to wind up having to do a follow-up video on this because this is getting more complicated than a love triangle that was actually secretly a love pentagram that fell apart and people's feelings are hurt, and there's just so much involved here. Like, oh man, I don't even know where to start except for the first thing you need to do is take a gander at this bad boy. It's the Freedom Star, crisscrossed with two, not one, but two Scar 17s, which is the best battle rifle ever made on one patch. It also has a Velcro backing that you can stick directly to your gear to symbolize my fight against the ATF. Alright, so I guess the best thing to do right at this point is to get you up to speed. The government started digging on rare breed, and it turns out they had shell companies, and they actually took their design from a patent called an AR1. We know this for sure because they're still paying royalties to that particular patent. Like, that's not in question at all. But now we're getting to the point of being before the AR1. Because the story doesn't stop at the AR1 getting denied from the ATF, rare breed knowing it got denied and determined a machine gun, buying the patent, and then just taking it to market anyway. So before the AR1, there was a guy down in Texas, just a good old boy. He came up with something called a flex fire. And I checked the dates on the patents. The story checks out. He put his patent in 2/14/17, and the AR1 was put in 9/29/17. Now the story goes, he had a friend. He keeps referring to them as the Rounds. I'm not sure if that's their last name or what the deal is with that. Anyways, he was overly vocal with them about his design he came up with on the phone, and they developed it basically. And he found out about it, and they winded up signing a licensing agreement giving him 50% of all profits made off of that particular design, which would be the AR1, from that point forward, to not go to court for patent infringement. Like, this was notarized, it was signed, it's a done deal. So, then, to try to avoid paying that 50%, they dropped their own patent called the AR1. This was before the ATF determined it to be a machine gun, hoping that in court, because what they did is they changed the cam, the shape of the cam, so it's more of a bar now. So they were hoping in court that they could argue that it's totally different because, yeah, it does the exact same thing and the exact same function in every way, shape, and form. But if you notice, his has a hump and ours has a bar. So that's what they were hoping to do. They filed their patent again, 9/29/17. Then they took their patent design, because remember, they don't want to pay the original guy 50% for coming up with the design, to the ATF. The ATF determined it was a machine gun, like I already said. So then they were like, okay, we're not going to take this to market. And then they made some sort of licensing agreement with their new patent for rare breed. Complete copy of the original one, but they were like, whatever, we don't care. They were probably expecting rare breed to buy it, submitted a sample to the ATF, it gets denied, determined to be a machine gun, and then everything just goes away. Nobody knows about it. They make a little bit of extra cash. Well, that didn't happen. Rare breed knew that their shit was going to be determined to be a machine gun because it was already sent to the ATF. So what did they do? They just cut that section out. And in Rare breed's defense, the ATF is very clear. You do not need to submit things to them. If they have a problem with it, they will send you a cease and desist, and it will be handled accordingly. Unless, of course, you're me, then they'll just come and arrest you without a cease and desist, without any fair notice. But another story for another day. Now, I had to draw this out to keep track of it because this is extremely complicated. So, all right, you got the FlexFire patent. Okay, that went to the AR1 in secret. Okay, so that went to the AR1 in secret. That was denied by the ATF. Well, he wound up putting out his own design called the Alamo 15. The AR1 was failed by the ATF, so that turned into the rare breed trigger. Now, most people are under the impression that the WOT was a ripoff of the rare breed patent, the AR1. Turns out that's not true. What happened is the guy with the flex fire technology, he was like, well, they're all bringing it to market. So he wound up licensing his patent to Big Daddy Unlimited, which produced the WOT. As you notice, they're identical to the rear breed trigger. And they built their trigger off of the flex fire patent, which does in fact date before the AR1. Now, somewhere in the middle here, FlexFire had reached out to Rare Breed and was like, hey, you're using my patent. The patent you're using was a stolen patent from my patent, which is ultimately going to go to court and I'm going to win anyway. Why don't you just make an agreement with me and cut out the rounds, because there's no point in paying them. They don't own the patent, and just license it for me and everything will be fine. Rare Breed got upset and was like, you either work with us or we're just going to sue you out of business. Because remember, this is when the Rare Breed trigger hit the market. They're making millions of dollars. They're lawyers themselves. They can just burn them out in court and ultimately win. Because the ATF has not yet determined that the Rare Breed is a machine gun. Yeah, we know it's going to be a machine gun, but at this point in time, I'm assuming they thought they were going to like not have it determined to be a machine gun or something. I don't know. Point is, they threatened him, and then that's where things stopped. Communication stopped, and again, at that point, then he wound up selling license to the patent to Big Daddy Unlimited, and they produced the wide open trigger. So, alright, all that happened. This was April 20th, or April 2020, when Rare Breed did launch their product. It was launched by Kevin Maxwell and Larry R. Lee Jr., aka Lawrence Domenico. Lawrence Domenico is actually an alias. That's a fake name. But we're just going to go with that because that's what everybody knows him by. And it'll get confusing if I start talking about Larry and Kevin. Because nobody knows Larry because he's been operating under Lawrence Domenico. Anywho. So the facts are, on 1/31/2018, a licensing agreement was signed by the people that produced the AR1. And that was for 50% of all profits after manufacturing costs. Like, that's just profits. In October 21, that patent, the FlexFire, was actually licensed out to WOT. So Rare Breed is now suing FlexFire for patent infringement on the LMO15. I don't really understand this, or that's what I'm gathering for. Like I said, this is just a convoluted mess. I will do a follow-up video when I understand what's going on a little bit more. So Rare Breed is saying that the LMO15 was stolen from their patent, but they don't want to pay FlexFire because their patent is different. But then they also sued Wide Open Triggered Big Daddy Unlimited for patent infringement, which was the FlexFire patent manufactured. So I'm not really sure what's going on here, because they're saying they don't owe FlexFire money because their patent's different. It's the AR1 patent. But then they're trying to sue FlexFire because they're saying it's patent infringement on the AR1, which came after the FlexFire. So I'm not really sure if they're saying that the Rare Breed trigger is a copy of the FlexFire patent. Like I said, this is all really confusing. I don't understand how they can say that the Rare Breed wasn't a copy of the FlexFire patent, but then yet turn around and sue them because it is a copy. This is a whole lot like I want my cake, but I also want to eat it too. And it kind of sucks too, because, you know, he might have been able to modify his patent and get it approved by the ATF and ultimately bring a product to the market that's a force reset trigger. Well, with this lawsuit, that's obviously not going to happen. So basically, Rare Breed is turned into the Titanic, and they're bringing down all these companies with them through frivolous lawsuits. Like I said, a love triangle that was actually secretly a love pentagram, and everything went awry, and now people's feelings are hurt. That's honestly the only way I can put this down on paper. But yeah, if you'd like to help support me, you can do that by purchasing one of these patches off of my shoponlytacticalfans.com. I am getting the financial squeeze put on me right now. Now I'm required to show up to every single court case So it means I got to drive across the country every time there's some sort of hearing to determine what's going to be eliminated from discovery or anything like that. So that's like damn near once a month. A trip across the country with the family, hotels, food, gas, everything, and then all the way back again. Honestly cost me between $3,000 and $5,000. I'll split the difference and say it cost $4,000, so my monthly expenses just got increased by $4,000. So I appreciate all your guys' support. I honestly don't think I could take up this fight without you guys supporting me. Anyway, sorry for the confusing video. It's just as confusing to me because I don't really understand what the hell's going on. Like, I understand it, but I don't understand the logic behind it. More specifically, their logic. Anyway, thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.